Welcome to this episode of Mainline Connect. I'm Jennifer Lynn Robinson, and my guest today is Michelle Leahy, who's a disability life planner with M. Leahy and Associates and the founder and CEO of M. Leahy and Associates. Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So, we started off the show talking about kind of a specific networking topic, and I think, I've known you for a few years now, and I was saying just before we started taping today, you've really opened my eyes to kind of some of the challenges that you have networking as a disabled person. So I thought that might be something interesting to talk about because you are out there, you put yourself out there so much, you do a lot of networking, you're very involved in the community, and of course we'll get into that more. But, how do you feel like your disability challenges you with the kind of networking you want to do?
Well, actually, it's really about accessibility because there's so many places that people have networking events and they're not wheelchair friendly.
Right.
Yeah, and so I actually do a lot of networking by LinkedIn, as well as setting up lunches.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why I like lunches is because I don't get whiplash. Because when you're networking and you're standing, you're always looking up.
Okay.
So, and then the idea is that we're on a level playing field.
Right.
So if I'm wheeling in and the person is already there, I'm already at eye contact.
Okay. So do you find when you go to networking events, people are likely to approach you, not likely to approach you, or it just depends?
It depends. Women networking events are a little bit better than, I would say, the male-female. And when I'm in a predominantly male networking event, I'm less likely to be approached.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and I think LinkedIn, I could see how that would really help, obviously, with the virtual networking. And, you mentioned the lunches, and besides the level playing field, I would think, having control about where you're networking, you probably have favorite restaurants that you not only like the venues, but they're wheelchair accessible, and you don't have to worry about it, right?
Absolutely.
So that makes it easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I have some haunts, in Wayne, in Conshohocken, and Panera is my best friend.
Panera's your best friend? Yeah. Yes. That's a good shout out for Panera. Yeah, that's great. So, you opened your business a couple years ago, 2 years ago.
Yes.
And, tell us about the company and what you do and what you offer.
Well, I am a disability life planner, which really is someone who helps people with disabilities, and predominantly it seems like my business is very, very focused on people with hidden disabilities, autism, intellectual disabilities, severe learning disabilities, mental illness, to help them navigate the system when they become adults. I mean, there's this new saying that when you leave the school system, you're falling off a cliff.
Right.
So because you have so many supports when you're a child with a disability that you don't know what adulthood is like. And so I kind of help people navigate the services of adulthood, including Social Security, government benefits, and then doing lifelong planning and person-centered planning, which is really to think about, the horizon.
Right. The big picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's going to happen when this person is 40 years old and, and the parents are aging? What does that look like? And so I really try to help them create a path that will make the person actually have integrity, and a person with a disability to really have integrity and be able to have their own autonomy and make their own choices, even if they need to be assisted with those choices.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, and when you were coming in today for the interview, I've known you for a few years, like I said, but I didn't know you had such an exciting background, like working in MTV and things like that. And so, I'm curious, what made you decide to kind of leave that world and do what you're doing?
9/11.
9/11, really?
9/11.
Yeah.
I actually worked. I worked at MTV and HBO, and I lived in New York for a couple years. I went to college for film and television, and so it was my dream to live in New York, which I did. And then I worked the night shift at the World Trade Center, and then I started to write disability articles on the side for a couple different disability magazines. But I was still working and living in New York, and I had a column called Shelley in the City.
Really?
Yes, where it was like, what was life like being a wheelchair user in New York and navigating the world of New York as a single, young woman.
Okay,
and
so sort of like a Sex in the City.
Yes,
but yeah. Okay,
yeah.
that sounds fun.
So, yeah, it was fun. And then I worked the World Trade Center on a night shift, and then I moved out 9/1 actually to move down to DC, and then the world just changed, and I just moving from New York to DC, people didn't know where I was, and the world of Washington DC completely changed. It was a very different world, 9/10/2001 versus 9/12 September 12th. So, and then I just came back to Philadelphia, which is where I was born and raised.
After 9/11, you felt like you wanted to come back here.
Yes. And I'm an only child, so my parents live in Bucks County, and it's just I wanted to be a little bit closer to them.
Right. And you had that experience.
Oh, yeah, it was wonderful.
New York
I wouldn't trade it for a lifetime.
Yeah. It's an exciting background. Yeah. So, why did you feel like it was the right time a couple years ago to venture on your own doing this as opposed to working for kind of the corporate world?
Well, I never really worked for the corporate world except for the MTV, and when I lived in New York. When I moved back to Philly, I couldn't find a job in corporate. The wheelchair was actually a hindrance to finding employment. So I couldn't find employment, so I went to working in the disability community in nonprofit, and I went there kicking and screaming, not wanting to do it because I didn't want to be a part of that, and I literally didn't realize, but I loved it. I loved every minute of it, and I just decided to, really dig my heels in.
Right.
And then I went from nonprofit to nonprofit, and then back in 2008 I was recruited to run a $250,000 grant, and helping people with disabilities go back into the workplace and into the workforce and being able to navigate their benefits. And so I absolutely adored it. And then I had another health run-in, and so I was on disability for a long time, and when I was ready to go back, even though I had the grant go from 250 to 700,000+, my supervisor at the time was like, "We love you, Michelle, but you are so much more, capable." And I felt a little bit stagnant. And during that time when I was out, I actually got my master's in nonprofit management.
Right, I saw that. That's wonderful.
Yes, and so I was getting requested from parents because while I was out for that time, my supervisor would call me in the hospital and says, "They don't want to talk to me. They want to talk to you."
Right.
And so I was doing phone calls from my hospital bed with clients.
Wow.
And I loved it. And then I got hooked up with a financial planner who was like, "Oh, your knowledge is so vast, and people would be willing to pay for you privately for this." And I was like, "I don't know."
So it's not really something you considered on your own.
No. It kind of morphed into something, and I was getting requests from parents left and right, and then it just marooned.
Yeah.
And so
very organic.
Yeah, it was very organic, and I still pitch myself sometimes.
No, it's great. I mean, and it's interesting because you mentioned that period where you had the health problems, you realized kind of you were in a stagnant place, but your employer also realized that you kind of needed to challenge yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's now a mentor of mine, and I'm very grateful. I mean, I never thought of myself. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to be my own business, but I never knew what I wanted to do with it, or what to do as an entrepreneur. You think that everything's been done before, and so how can you create something
but you have
new? And I have.
So
I was amazing. Totally surprised.
Yeah. So I know you help people with disabilities kind of do life planning and everything. Tell us about the flip side of that. Tell us the reasons people would come to you, but then also the people who don't come to you, kind of what are the consequences of not planning?
Oh, well, The people that really come to me, I get a lot of my referrals from schools and psychologists and neuropsychs.
Okay.
And the reason why is because they're recognizing that the person, their loved one, their person with a disability, the disability is limiting in their life. For example, someone with autism who has gotten all these supports and all these structured through an individualized education plan while they were in school, it's all false structures, even though I think it's wonderful. But when you leave the school system, those structures go away.
All of them.
All
100%.
of them.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and you're going from an entitlement program to an eligibility program. And so you've been groomed to fight for those supports your whole life. And then you literally are falling off the cliff to no supports. And who do you go to, and how do you? And so I get a lot of referrals, and I get a lot of clients that are recognizing that the disability is much more intense, or there's more supports that are needed than they may have recognized.
Right.
And because many parents don't realize what they're doing.
Yeah. Or they're just consumed in the day-to-day, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And not only that, though, but they're doing so many things on autopilot. You know, when, for example, being a wheelchair user, I know that I can't get into certain restaurants because there's steps.
Right.
But a parent who's been ordering chicken nuggets for their son, you know, their entire life, they never know when to stop ordering the chicken nuggets.
Right.
You know, and being able to compensate for the disability. With my disability, it's very in your face.
Yeah.
Whereas when you have a hidden disability, autism, intellectual disability, a mental illness, it's not so in your face, and you're so used to overcompensating for it.
Right.
So you don't realize the limitations you may have once you enter the real world. And so parents actually recognize that. Sometimes they recognize it when they're going through the transitioning process from high school to what's going to be next. And sometimes they don't recognize it until they may have, you know, the person with a disability has failed out of college.
Okay.
You know, because they weren't able to get on to class on time and be able to deal with their own time management, or they needed constant prompting. Or some parents, and now that my business is expanding, I'm getting a lot of parents that are in their 70s that were like, oh, their brother or sister is going to take care of everything. And their brother or sister have moved, have kids of their own, and they're consumed with their own lives. So their backup plan kind of is falling through as well.
Yeah.
And so and it's hard, because what I deal with is that disability in your face when they've been so used to overcompensating and being able to placate it a little bit.
Right. So, I mean, you know, I know we've talked about, you know, just the benefits that end kind of when you leave school, like high school, I assume, right? So is it better for people to come to you, like, the earlier the better? You know, start planning, like, at 5 years old or something? Or, you know, do you find, unfortunately, most people are coming to you, like you said, at the end of high school, or, you know, when there's problems in college or things like that?
Well, I think that my sweet spot of meeting with people is right when they are 14 to 22.
Okay.
Because there's a timeline of different services within the school system that you have to actually hit. For example, when you turn 18, you're financially emancipated. So you want to be able to apply for Social Security benefits at that time, and you want to apply for them before the age of 22, because if you don't, you won't be able to be getting benefits off of your parents' benefits when they retire. So their income level is going to really be low. But as far as like doing a special needs trust and you know, really doing the financial planning and really thinking, you will have more flexibility the earlier that you come.
And things take time too to get approved for a lot of these things,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, and it sounds like probably a lot of people, like for example, what you just told me with applying from between 18 to 22 so that you have your parents' Social Security. I didn't know that. You know, people probably wouldn't know that unless they went to see somebody like you. They wouldn't know that they have such a limited time frame to deal with that, or they're going to lose out on the benefits.
Right.
Right?
And exactly. And it's not like it's just me. I actually work a lot with the psychologist, and I don't mean it's a village. So I actually have a huge referral network of lawyers, financial planners. Even though I'm licensed to just do life and health, I really help other financial planners that can do the whole scope, but they don't understand how it integrates with the benefits and government services and what needs to be done. So when you come to me, I'm not just helping them with, the now. I'm giving them a little bit of a path on, okay, well, this is what you need to do next, and here's the place that you need to go, because I'm also a meaningful information and referral network as well.
And that, a lot of that you've done, that takes networking to do. I mean, you've had to kind of vet people, get to know them, learn who you can work with as far as partnerships, and then who you feel comfortable referring to your clients. I'm sure not everybody is somebody that you feel comfortable, right? You have to kind of live and learn, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I do. I vet people all the time, and that's one of the things about networking, because one of the things is that a lawyer, who I think is awesome, may not be the right fit for my client because their personalities may clash. So I have to have a little bit of a toolbox of people that I can call on and know that they would be good matches. As well as financial planners, as well as government services. I mean, because so many people are just so grateful to get the services, they don't really realize that they have choice within those services. And so I help them to be able to be that choice. And one of the big things that is very different about me is that I've worked in government services, and now that but I've experienced it too. So what's so interesting is that I'm not being paid by the state. I am your advocate. I am your planner for all the things that you may need pertaining to that one person, to your child or your sibling or that loved one with a disability.
Okay, yeah, that's super important. I mean, it's really a niche service that's very needed. And, like you said, it's grown very organically for you, and you have this wonderful business now that you seem very passionate about. And, the fact that you're helping so many people, I'm sure, is a wonderful thing for you.
I do love what I do.
Yeah, and not a lot of people can say that, so I love it. So I know that you are very much out in the community. You do a lot of speaking and things like that. Tell me about why that's important, and also how that's helped you market the business.
Well, it's important because the laws change.
Okay.
For example, we just passed the ABLED Act.
Okay.
Which is a savings account for people with disabilities, but there's a lot of limitations in it. And when you're reading blogs and when you're reading like quick little articles, you're not getting the full picture of that. So I do a lot of presentations to nonprofit organizations, to schools, to parent groups, to churches, and I am trying to expand to go more into some lawyers and some businesses that may have lunch and learns for their staff that may have people with disabilities in their life. But networking is really important because you never know where the next idea is or who is going to be able to be helpful to you, and you get to think of things differently.
Yeah.
Like I met with a lawyer a couple days ago for lunch, and she was just talking, and she turned my head in a way of like, I didn't think of it in that way, because you're so set in your ways when you're doing your own business.
Yeah.
You always have your own rhythm. So the one thing that's really great about networking is that you're always there to get a new perspective.
Yeah, I love that about networking too. I love, you have your own ideas, of course, but then hearing other people's ideas, it's usually things that you didn't think of, and then people see things that you should be doing or things about yourself that you don't see in yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's always positive too.
I mean, when we first met, I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even think of it that way. And it changes your perspective and it makes you sharper.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, sometimes you run into these entrepreneurs who really don't get the benefit of all that, and they kind of sit behind a desk, you know, and they're on their own little world of their clients, and I think they're really doing themselves a disservice, because there is so much to be gained from sort of that entrepreneur community of, you know, excitement and ideas and things like that, you know?
And that's one of the reasons why I can't actually work at home.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm in my own cocoon, and one of the things about being a person with a disability is that I want to be among my community.
Right.
And what a great way to be among my community is to have an office and to be able to go to networking events, and it also it just is a really great way to expand your horizons.
Yeah. So, you know, we talked about your master's in nonprofit management, right? And I know that you sit on the board of Men's Fit, right?
No,
not the board. No,
not anymore.
Oh, not anymore. I'm sorry,
No,
but you did.
Anymore.
You did sit on the board.
I did for a little while, and because when you're an entrepreneur, it's a wonderful organization. Yeah. But when you're starting your own business, you kind of are running so thin.
I know.
And it was one of the things that I just had to let go of.
I understand. Yeah, I had a point where I sat on many more boards than I sit on now, and same thing. I had to just realize that you need time for yourself. You need time to actually do the work for your clients, and as much as you want to be involved in everything, you can't.
Right.
You know, but yeah, I mean, I know you were involved with Men's Fit, and you are still involved with some other organizations, because I know, you know, as you're saying, community involvement is a very big priority for you. So tell me about some of the things you are involved in.
I'm actually on the board of the Pennsylvania Education for All Coalition, which is about mainstreaming people with disabilities into the classroom.
Okay.
So I love that, because it's about inclusion, which is that's my business. That's exactly what I'm about. It's about everybody should be included. So it's an organization that's dedicated to the inclusion of children with disabilities into the school system.
Okay.
And then I'm also very involved with Plan of PA, which is an organization that does life care management and also acts as a trustee for people with disabilities for their third-party trusts.
Okay.
So when the parents are no longer able to do the financial management and that life caring plan, because it's such a time suck for them. It's not bad, but so it's a life caring management that actually takes over and relieves some of the parents from that day-to-day stress of all of the administrative stuff of the government services and the paperwork of having a person with a disability. And then I'm also very involved in Femfessionals, and I also travel a lot.
You do travel a lot, yeah. We haven't talked about that. You travel a lot for work. Yeah.
I do. Most of my travel is within this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, because it's not a state. And then I go to New Jersey some of the time, but I travel all over the country.
Yeah.
You know, and I've done some webinars in different parts of the country about disability life planning and helping them really understand, because when you become an adult with a disability, it's like you're just so grateful for the services that you get, and then a person sometimes becomes a slave to their services.
Right.
And that's not the point of services.
Right.
It's about the person being the center and the services working around the person, instead of the person being a slave to those services.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've talked about some of the good stuff about being an entrepreneur. What would you say is sort of the most challenging thing about running your own business?
Well, I think I have a little bit of different challenges than most.
Yeah.
So if I want to go to an event, I always have to call ahead to make sure it's wheelchair friendly.
Okay.
So that, and when it's not, I get the, oh, I'm so sorry. But the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, has been around for 26 years. We're celebrating our 26th year this year. And I still struggle.
Yeah.
You know, with just having access, and just the idea that so many people are surprised that a wheelchair user can be an entrepreneur and be, you know, educated woman.
Right.
I mean, being a woman entrepreneur is one thing, but then having the disability on top of it is just, you know, is just crazy. And then, honestly, the parking.
Yeah. And I would assume things take more time. I mean, so that, you know, that's probably a challenge. Just, you know, as far as entrepreneurs, I mean, we're always juggling so much.
Right.
You know, there's never enough hours or time in the day. So, I mean, I can imagine it's more of a struggle for you, you know, leaving extra time and getting, you know.
I wouldn't say that it's more. I just say that it's different.
Okay.
Because more means that I'm less.
No, I don't mean to say that.
No, I don't mean it to.
I think you're amazing.
But I'm just saying that more sometimes sounds a little bit more like less, meaning that it takes more time, so I have less energy.
Right.
And that's not. I don't know what it's like to not have a disability.
Right.
So it's
so it
like,
just seems like this is what you do.
This is the way it is.
Right.
This is it, you know.
And you know what, to be honest, that's probably what a lot of your success is based on, because, you know, this is just the day-to-day that you're used to, and you don't try to limit yourself. I mean, you just do everything that any entrepreneur would do, you know, and you just make it happen.
Yeah. Nobody's going to pay my mortgage.
Right. No, I mean, I think, and that's, you know, that's what being an entrepreneur is. It's all about the hustle. So, I mean, you know, it's no different.
It's not, my mortgage company doesn't care.
Right. No, they don't care. No, I know. They're very unsympathetic about most things.
Yes.
So I wanted to also ask you about, you know, maybe some of your personal goals. You know, we've talked a lot about your business. You know, what's something maybe that you want to accomplish this year or in the future that you haven't done yet?
I want to go zip lining.
Zip lining?
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't been zip lining yet, and I would love to go zip lining.
Okay.
I've been to Europe. I have friends that live in Italy, and I lived in England for a little stint.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I've done so much, but
is there one place you haven't visited that you'd love to go?
I really want to go to Ireland.
Oh yeah, it looks beautiful there.
I want to go to Ireland.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I really want to do. And really just be able to relax a little bit. I know it sounds, but when you're an entrepreneur and starting your own business, you think about it 24/7.
Yes.
And it never goes away. You know, the fact that I would like to be able to just not have my email, to go somewhere and not have my email pop up.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you can fix that.
I know.
Yeah. That's what you can control.
Yes, I know. I understand. But I
feel like you need to.
I feel like I need to.
Yeah. Now, just because I follow you on social media, I know like you just did have a little bit of time off, right?
Yes.
And I was excited to hear for you that, you know, said I read a non-business book, which when I went on vacation a few months ago, I did the same thing, and I was so excited about the same thing. I read a book that's not related to work, where I wasn't underlining and trying to get ideas for how to make my business better. I just read a mindless book.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and it sounds like you had a nice time.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I wasn't in the most glamorous place, but
That's okay. Yeah.
But it was lovely. And I have, in another life, I actually did a lot of marketing for disability magazines and was a columnist, as I said.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of friends that live in different parts of the country. So I just went to Wisconsin and got some cheese.
Okay.
and got a lot of cheese.
Yeah.
And just read a book for a whole week and just
relaxed.
Enjoyed and relaxed.
That's wonderful.
And it was wonderful.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So I know that you either just started or you're starting your own office space now in Conshohocken, right?
Yes, I'm moving in September 1st.
Okay. That's very soon. Yeah.
So it is very soon. It's wonderful. I'm so excited. It's my space.
Yeah, that is very exciting.
But I have to say that I was very blessed. When you start your own business, you have to have people that are believe in your mission and believe in your vision. And I was very fortunate that since a couple financial agencies really believed in my vision and actually gave me some space in their office, a little cubicle, and it was wonderful. And so for free, and I just adore. I just, you know, I'm so grateful that, because it's really important, you know, as an entrepreneur, no matter what you're doing, to have that belief
Oh yeah, nobody else is going to give it to you. You have to give it to yourself.
But the other thing is to be able to relay your, relay what you want to do in your vision, and then have somebody else, grab onto it and believe in that. And so I was been very fortunate that a couple companies have really embraced what I've been doing.
That's wonderful. So we're nearing the end, and I want to make sure people know how to reach you. So, tell our viewers how they can get in touch with you.
So it's Michelle A. Leahy, M. Leahy and Associates. That's my business, and you can actually Google it. It's www.leahylifeplan.com. So it's LeahyLifeplan.com.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time.